Hey everyone. It is kind of late here my time and I am tired because I just spent some time doing some things that I'm going to get real about for a minute about where my strengths are and where my challenges lie because that's what naked communication is really about. So I'm Sage and I'm the author of Naked Communication, Courageously Create the Relationships You Really Want. And I'm a mom, I'm a cancer survivor, I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm a world traveler, I'm happily married to an amazing man who is a teacher. And I'm coming to you because I'm bringing in more of these naked nuggets that just like the things that come to me through my day around my way of mastering my communication to be more related and more real and more naked with everyone in my life, including myself. So, because really what it's all about is having extraordinary relationships. That is the premise of this work and this conversation is on the planet if people were listening to each other more, loving each other more, forgiving more, asking for what they need more, feeling less guilty, just being who they are and showing up more fully. Wow, what a more connected place this would be. And here in the United States, where there's been a ton of divisiveness and tension, at least in my lifetime, I'm not sure there's ever been a time where we need more to come in from a place of listening and from realness and authenticity. So that is what Naked Nuggets are. They're things from my day. So you can see that I'm walking the talk of all the things I teach in my book and in my work with my clients about how to get naked in the way you relate to others. So my day was a mom day today. So I work part-time in my business, although I work nights like I am right now. My kids are asleep. But today I was on with my 3.5-year-old and we did gymnastics and the library and the grocery store and all these things that it takes to run a household and raise little humans while my son was at school. And then we picked him up and so on and so forth. And then there was homework and then there was cooking dinner and my husband was working late tonight. So I was cooking dinner, trying to get the homework thing going, and then I had to help coach my son's basketball team. And this is where the real part comes. Like, I don't know if any of you have ever tried to coach your own children in anything. All of the expertise that I have in communication like flew out the window within 5 minutes of being on a basketball court with like 12 7-year-olds. I was like, ah! I truly was like smoke was like coming out of my ears. I'm like, how do I effectively communicate with all of these wild banshees, these like wild, it was like herding cats. And I really, really felt my patience shortening and my frustration mounting and all of the things that I want to teach my kids by modeling my behavior, by the way that I relate to people on the street that are strangers, to the way I relate to the most intimate people in my life, my husband and my mother. And I want to show up as somebody who can effectively and powerfully communicate and forge closeness, not as someone whose patience is short and whose frustration is high, which means what's coming out of my mouth and the tone of my voice are not my best, right? So I kind of suck at working with a large group of 7-year-olds because I don't have the patience for it. It's not even that I don't know how to manage them. I think they're adorable. But it's like at 6:15 to 7:15 at night when they're all tired and they're wound up from their day. And I'm tired and rushed because we had to do dinner beforehand and I had to juggle putting my daughter somewhere in order to get my son there. I'm really was just aware of, oh my gosh, how do I tap into naked communication, my skill set, what I teach people, to be clear and compassionate and courageous in the face of hard. I mean, it sounds silly, but it was hard. It was really hard. It was me and another mom, and we knew all these kids because they go to school together, most of them. And I used to be an athlete, and so there was this way in which I want them to have fun, but I also want them to learn, and I want them to have the main trigger for me is respect. So that's like maybe a whole nother Facebook Live, but how to cultivate and teach this idea of self-respect mutual respect and respect for someone, an adult who's in a position of authority. Um, and I find myself being like, I want my kids to somewhat question authority and think for themselves and not just fall in line, because honestly, then they can be, they might fall in line behind the wrong peer, for example. But at the same time, I want them to have respect for somebody who's showing up to volunteer their time and create a positive experience for them. In this case, particularly the other mom coach whom I watched. Here's the vulnerable naked piece. I watched my own son be really disrespectful, and I thought, I did not raise somebody like this. And I pulled him off to the side and had a stern talking, with him about, what, you don't talk to people like that. No, no, no. And I came home and I'm telling my mom, like, I did not raise a kid like that. And then I laughed at myself and I go, but I did, because my kid just did that. And how humbling it is to get real with yourself. Like, I'm doing the best I can as a mom and a parent every damn day. I'm showing up to parent my son and my daughter with my husband in a way that teaches them to be strong and courageous and inquisitive and creative and generous and kind. And you think your lessons are getting through, and then sometimes they do things and you're like, oh my gosh, do I suck at this? What just happened to my kid? So that's the getting real part. Just owning how complicated and messy it can be to be in relationship with yourself and to call out your best self time and time again. And messy it can be to be in relationship with others, to, I had to sort of discipline my child and then step right back in and work with these other kids and have my kid step back in and be able to reintegrate himself without too much embarrassment or shame. And then figuring out how much is too much to talk about it afterwards when we're driving home. Because for me, it's super sacred and important to go to bed with love, right? So both of my children love to snuggle and read books before bed, and they're getting older, 3.5 and 7.5, and I still feel like that's sort of the sacred time for us to always come back to love, right? So naked communication is about clear, clean, compassionate, and courageous communication. All types of communication. Our conversations, our texts, these videos, what we write, our news feed, our pillow talk, all of that, our emails, that is all communication. And so clean, clear, compassionate, and courageous communication is what naked communication is. And I want to maintain that even when I'm challenged, even when all of my edges are pushed, even when after a day of, on the move, I'm in this unusual role of working with a bunch of kids in the evening in an athletic capacity as a coach, and I'm feeling like, my own child isn't complying. How can I still put the mirror on myself to show compassion? They're 7, they're learning. To show compassion with myself when my son acts out. He's human, it's his own journey. He's gonna push back and have to find his own edges just like I did. How can I keep getting real with myself about what my strengths are and what my areas for growth are? I truly believe my biggest area for growth will forever be my patience. I just don't have a lot of it in some ways. It's funny because some people think I'm incredibly patient. Maybe it depends on the context in which you know me, but in myself, I know that my buttons get pushed as a mom, for sure, number one. But also, I tend to think fast, speak fast, create fast, write fast, whatever, move fast. And so my patience with others in general, to allow them the space to go at their own pace, but give myself permission to go at mine. So that is the piece here. It's so important. If you want to show up with the people in your life in the most compassionate and connected way possible, you got to get real about your own stuff. You really have to be naked with yourself first, so you can really get clear on what your areas for growth are, where you struggle, so you know where your edges are, and you can get the support you need to keep coming back to being more and more and more naked and loving and honest and courageous. So that's my tidbit for you tonight. That's my nugget. Naked nugget is nakedness starts with you. Really getting clear on and being real with yourself about where your strengths are and where your areas for growth are, and then reminding yourself in the moment when your edges are getting stretched or when you feel yourself getting triggered to come back into clear, clean, compassionate, and courageous in how you move forward in that challenge, right? How you respond to the person who pissed you off. How do you respond to your kid who's working your last nerve? How do you respond to 12 kids on a basketball court who are all working your nerves? How do you keep coming back again and again to that sense of naked communication, that idea that connection should be the primary goal of any conversation? That connection would be the primary goal in your conversations. So I could have like kept going after my son about his behavior, and I really chose that I wanted to go to bed with love. So I did pull him aside and have a firm talking to, and when we got home, I said, I really didn't like the way you spoke in the beginning of practice. I think you did better as the practice went on, but I really didn't like some of the things you said and how you said them, and and then I let it go because I wanted to be loving and connected again. And I felt that my message had already been heard. So I hope that helps. Remember to get real with yourself. Remember that the naked communication piece also is internal, not just how you present to others. And I'll see you tomorrow for another naked communication nugget. Have a great night wherever you are in the world, if it's night or morning. Bye.